Fusion fans, you know, it's tough. It's tough for the Philadelphia fans out there. We got the Fusion at number 1. Okay. I know that there's still a few Fusion fans watching this video. Freaking Fusion fans. What's up, everybody? It's Reinforced back with another week of Power Rankings here on the Overwatch League YouTube channel. And oh boy, do we have a lot of changes going on. We had a very tumultuous weekend behind us with a lot of wacky compositions and weird results. And I'm here to sum it up and give you my best shot at some Power Rankings following some interesting matches. I'm sure you're very intrigued about it, and I'm here to present it. So let's kick things off with the APAC region. And we saw a lot of dive, specifically from Seoul Dynasty, okay? But they're not going to be my number 1 pick for this week. It's going to be the Shanghai Dragons, and you know why? Because they're awesome. They're really good. They're a really good team. I think they secured the number 1 seed for the league overall. The Shanghai Dragons. Can you imagine? 2018? Well, they had like Roshan and stuff. Yeah, popping off. Wow, what a turnaround for the Shanghai Dragons franchise. So congratulations to all the Shanghai Dragons fans watching this video, and of course all the staff and the players as well. What an accomplishment. What a turnaround for that franchise. So that's incredible. Number 1 is the Shanghai Dragons. At number 2, it's going to be the New York Excelsior. And this is probably a surprise to a lot of people, because they actually lost to the Seoul Dynasty this past week. But I don't want to overreact, okay? I do not want to overreact to one matchup where Seoul beat New York Excelsior. Seoul has been one of the worst performing teams in APAC this entire year, okay? And that's surprising to a lot of people when you say it like that, because when you think of the players like Profit, Gesture, 2U has been looking good as well on the off-tank, but like they just haven't gotten the wins until this past week. Seoul Dynasty was one of the weaker teams in APAC, but now, you know, a new hero pool comes in, Genji and Tracer removed, and Seoul are looking really good. They did beat London Spitfire twice, okay? You cannot read into that too much. So, that being said, I do not want to overreact to this one loss the New York Excelsior took to the Seoul Dynasty and just be like, well, they're garbage now, because I don't think that's fair on the New York Excelsior after how they looked in the Countdown Cup with no hero pools and the matches leading up to the Countdown Cup. They did have that loss to Chengdu Hunters, but since that, they looked massively improved. So I'm looking out for the New York Excelsior, how they're going to look moving forward after this hero pool, or even, you know, beyond this week. So it's going to be an interesting change for this team moving forward. And I couldn't justify moving Hangzhou Spark or Guangzhou Charge above them in my power rankings either. I don't think you could really justify that argument. Both of those teams have looked really good, but at the same time, it's like they didn't play this past week. You know, how much can you really read into this win? So I've decided to just sit on my power rankings for this week and just leave New York Excelsior at number 2. And I'm sorry, Guangzhou and Hangzhou fans, but, you know, that's how it goes. I've also not decided to move Seoul Dynasty up. They still remain number 5 in my APAC power rankings. And as I said, they did beat London Spitfire twice. But I mean, it's the London Spitfire, okay? Like, they're expected to beat the London Spitfire. And they also beat the New York Excelsior. We talked about it now for like solid 2 minutes. But they did beat New York Excelsior, but I still didn't feel like I could justify moving them above Guangzhou and Hangzhou. Because Hangzhou, I mean, obviously they made it to the finals of the Countdown Cup. They looked solid. I really like the improvement they've been making as of recent this past month. And then Guangzhou Charge has consistently been like the number 2 team for the longest time in the APAC region. And then they actually lost to the New York Excelsior 2-3 in the Countdown Cup quarterfinals. So they obviously have a really good high level. Are Seoul Dynasty better than Guangzhou Charge overall? I don't think I'm willing to make that bet right now anyway. I want to see more from the Seoul Dynasty and find some consistency from the Seoul Dynasty, because we've been debated. We've been owned by the Seoul Dynasty so many times this season that one weekend of wins, 2 of which came against London. I'm not gonna overreact, okay? I'm not gonna overreact. I'm gonna be happy that they played well. They did play well. Some improvement from Seoul Dynasty. I want them to keep playing well. Because that would make APAC such a competitive and fun region. I want to see Seoul Dynasty do well, but it's only been 1 week. It's only been 1 week of matches, so I want to see more before I can justify moving them above Hangzhou and Guangzhou. So there you have it. You might disagree. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think. You know, we can't agree on everything. So let's agree to disagree. Or agree to agree. I would prefer agree to agree. Anyway, let's take a look at my NA power rankings, and for this one, we have shaken things up quite a bit, and some of you are going to say that it's, you know, pretty moronic of me to not read into New York Excelsior and Seoul Dynasty match and then make changes in the NA rankings. But, you know, there's different circumstances. So different circumstances, different context, and therefore I've decided to put the Philadelphia Fusion at number 1. Fusion fans, you know, it's tough. It's tough for the Philadelphia fans out there. Okay, so we got the Fusion at number 1. Okay, that's a bit questionable. They haven't looked spectacular when it comes to the team chemistry. Didn't like what I saw from the Philadelphia Fusion. I know that there's still a few Fusion fans watching this video. Freaking Fusion fans. Sorry, Shock fans. I know you just won the Countdown Cup. I know you've been solid overall for the longest time, but it looked pretty messy this past week. I'm not gonna lie, it looked pretty messy, and I understand that it's a complicated hero pool. I understand that, you know, you can have a week off and not necessarily play as well, and you still can remain the number 1 team. But the fact of the matter is, the Fusion have been so close to being number 1 for so long that just dominating the Shock the way they did with a 3-0 win, I don't think you can justify keeping the Shock at the number 1 spot after such an impressive display from the Fusion. It was pretty close in the Countdown Cup, and then you saw Rascal come in for the Shock. You saw Twilight on Diana, and they started making plays, and they started to get things going. But that was a very competitive match, and so I still think that Fusion was very close to winning the Countdown Cup. And now, obviously, they got a 3-0 win against the Shock in this matchup this past week. And I think it's about time we actually give some credit to the Fusion for their recent performances, and therefore they are my number 1 team. Now, of course, this could very easily change, you know, on a flip of a coin, you know, next week. Who knows? Shock could be back at number 1. I still think Shock has been the most dominant team so far this season, but I don't think it's fair to leave them at number 1 when the Fusion actually won 3-0. So, Fusion at number 1, Shock at number 2. Now at number 3, we got the Paris Eternal, and I don't think this, you know, no shenanigans here, okay? Paris Eternal, really solid team. We know what they're capable of. XC popping off on the McCree. You know, they didn't have a lot of main tank troubles this past week, but it's, you know, it's been a concern of mine moving forward as we get to the season playoffs. You know, could be a lot of shakeups, especially with like the double off tank meta we're seeing on ladder right now. You know, if the ranked meta goes into Overwatch League playoffs, like who knows how Benbest and Nosemite is gonna perform on off tank heroes? Like, I don't know, no one knows. So Paris Eternal at number 3, and I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. Now at number 4. I put the Los Angeles Valiant, and this is also a bit controversial because Florida Mayhem for the longest time has been the number 4 team. They've consistently been so good these past couple of months, and I get it, okay? They've really like overperformed the expectations of a lot of people this season. But, you know, the Valiant reverse swept them this past week. I think that the Valiant have put in some really good performances as of late as well. I think that KSF had some breakout performances on the Genji, and then of course we know what KSP is capable of on the hit scan. We know what Shax can do on the Tracer, and so even though like Tracer was removed and Genji was removed, the Valiant looked really good this past week, and I was really very impressed by the Valiant's ability to really take it to the Florida Mayhem and turn it around after the game break. So I do want to give some props to the Valiant. They had a good performance against the Paris Eternal as well in the Countdown Cup quarterfinals, I believe it was, where they actually could have won that quarterfinals against the Paris Eternal. They had a big lead on Volskaya Industries, but then they boomed themselves. They weren't able to take point A, and that's when the series went downhill. But the Valiant had a real shot at taking it over Paris Eternal in the quarterfinals. Great matchup there, and now you take on the Florida Mayhem and you reverse sweep them. So, you know, you gotta give credit where credit is due. I think the Valiant has been improving steadily, and they're now showing us a lot of different looks. So with a win against the Florida Mayhem, I think it's fair that they take the number 4 slot above them. But, you know, fear not, Florida Mayhem fans, you're still a really good team, and you could easily be back at number 4 very soon. So number 5, obviously, is going to be the Florida Mayhem, and I still think this team is just like improving by the week as well, because Yaki, he used to be this Tracer who obviously had a good performance in the main melee, and Yaki finished off a lot of the kills that BQB had on the Ashe with the explosive damage. But since then, we've seen Yaki really step up on other roles as well. We've seen him, you know, bring out the Genji and playing it to a pretty good level. We've seen him bring out the Echo most recently and playing the Echo to a really high level. So I keep being impressed by Yaki's ability to flex over to some of these heroes. And then you can have the fundamental style where Fate and Gargoyle can play very nicely together. You have BQB just like doing his thing in the back line, playing the Ashe or the Widowmaker, whatever it requires of him. And you just have a really solid fundamental team, and Yaki is this consistent flex player that can play a lot of different heroes and decide the tempo for this team, whether it's Mei, Echo, Genji, you know, you name it. Jackie can play a lot of different heroes. So I really like what I'm seeing from the Florida Mayhem as well. But again, you lost to the LA Valiant, and I think it's fair at this point to put Valiant at number 4. So that's going to be it. At number 6, I want to go over this as well. At number 6, we have the LA Gladiators, and this is a team that is steadily improving. They're showing that their practice is more efficient. I had a chance to talk to Space in the post-match interview this past week, and he said that they're taking practice a lot more seriously. They're taking practice more seriously to sort of simulate a match environment, and I think you can definitely see that in their play and how they're performing as of recent. I think they had great adaptations against the Dallas Fuel, so I think that this is a team as well that is definitely on the rise. I'm intrigued to see more from the LA Gladiators, but for now I think they're better than teams like the Atlanta Reign or the Dallas Fuel, Toronto Defiant, etc. So the Gladiators could really solidify themselves as a top 5 team, you know, going into the season playoffs. So that's going to be very exciting. But there you have it. That is my 2 power rankings for North America and the APAC region. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video, dislike the video, all of that good stuff. And that's going to be it for this week's power rankings. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll be back next week with some more power rankings. Take care.